everybody, Shawn Tubbs here. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Wampler Pantheon Overdrive. It's got a lot of goodies in it that kind of give you the blues breaker thing, and then well beyond that in EQ spectrum and voice spectrum, and most importantly gain spectrum. There's quite a bit on tap here, about as much as that type of circuit could actually give you, and it really sounds great in higher gain stages. So let's get right into the controls. Your top left, you have your bass control. In the center, you've got your treble control. And on the right, you've got your presence control. All of these are pretty self-explanatory, and I'll get into those in the demo so you can hear them. On the bottom left, you've got your volume control, and then on the bottom right, you've got your gain control. Now, there's two three-way toggle switches on the top of this pedal. There's nothing hidden inside, everything's on top. On the left, you've got a three-way gain level switch. So in the down position, that's going to be the least amount of gain. In the up position, that's going to be the most amount of gain on tap, and then in the middle, it's going to be somewhere in between those two gain levels. And the EQ becomes more or less active depending on how much gain you're using, and we'll get into that as well. The overdrive voice on the right, the three-way switch, when it's in the up position, I'm hearing the most amount of low end, and that becomes more apparent depending, once again, on how much gain you're running. In the center, it's a little bit more neutral, and then in the down position, you hear quite a bit more of kind of the clean sound of your guitar blended in, and you'll certainly get to hear that in the overdrive. And then, of course, it's got the awesome soft switching on it that works great. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into this Wampler Pantheon Overdrive. Okay, let's check out the Pantheon. I'm going to use my Sir Classic Pro Strat into my Red Plate Blues Machine amp. I've got it dialed up for kind of a Fender thing, and pretty clean. We're going to make this pedal do all the work. So here's just the guitar and amp. And here's the Pantheon. So right now I've got it dialed on kind of the sound that was my favorite kind of settings. What I liked about it is it was lower gain, and I tend to like to play at lower gain, and we'll get into the higher gain stages. But what I really dug is it could sound pretty beastly. With a back humbucker, but if I went to a neck position and just kind of back the volume off, sounded really sweet. And of course we can crank it back up. And it sounds killer, but it just really backs off nicely. So that's the first setting. The way it's set is pretty much the kind of lowest gain level, and then I've got the overdrive voice at kind of the most low end, and now that switch is going to become more apparent as we get into some of the higher gain settings. So without really touching any controls up here, I think what I'm going to do is just throw the gain level to the next hottest setting, which would be all the way up on the switch. So in that setting, we can check out the voice switch really quick. So right now it's going to have the most amount of low end, and I've got the gain up. So it's fairly subtle, but I am hearing more low end in that upper position. It's a little more focused. Now in the down position, what it's going to do is add basically some clean to it. Now you can really hear that on the back humbucker. But where I found that to sound actually really great was when I went back to more of a neck position. So if you do want to add kind of that blended clean type sound, you'd put the switch in that position. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and put it in the center so I can let you guys hear the highest gain stage, and then I'll let you hear this EQ real quick. So that's a really good amount of gain from a circuit like this. So the down setting, kind of open, stringy, less gain, all the way up, more gain, and then when you put it in the center, it's the most gain. And then obviously you can fine tune your gain from the actual gain control, but that kind of gives you an idea of the amount of gain on tap for this guy. I'm going to go ahead and put it in the second highest gain setting, and I'm going to go ahead and sweep this EQ for you. Now the presence I found, and I think they've even mentioned that you really want to start with that off. It's if you have a real dark guitar or a real dark amp, you might want to start bringing that in, but otherwise you'll kind of keep it off. So let's just start by rolling the bass. Obviously in that gain setting you can get quite a bit of woolly low end from the bass control. But it can get things sounding pretty spread out and big without getting overly loose in the low end. Now the treble, I'll do the same thing. So that's a really nice voice. For sure, that control sounds great. Now the presence control, I'll let you hear that. So that control does quite a bit. So you know, these are all going to vary depending on how you have your gain settings and things like that. But that gives you a really good idea of the overall versatility of this pedal, from guitars, different guitars that may be darker, brighter, amps that are darker or brighter. There's a lot of gain on tap with this, and that's without really overdriving the amp at all. So that's the Pantheon. It's a really great sounding pedal. If you've got questions, go to the website and check it out. And as always, I really appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you next time.